I want to talk about the fight that was on the card, Chandler and Ferguson. Now, in that fight, I found it interesting that after Chandler had a nice win, a dramatic win, a lot of you guys fights are dramatic. My God, that's why the UFC's brand is where it is, quite frankly. And it surpassed boxing as far as audience when it comes to regular week-to-week fights, unless you put on Canelo or somebody. So, in that fight with Chandler, he got the right to talk. He did a magnificent job. He got the win. He struggled early. He got the win. And then he called out everybody. And I thought it was a little, tell me if you were thinking the same thing. I know you're an honest guy. It was a little suspicious, whatever. But it was just interesting that he called all these names out. Good names. But your name wasn't one of them. Did you find that a little interesting or curious or suspicious or whatever the hell?
I thought it was. The next day I tweeted out that exact thing. I said, he's called out everybody, but I didn't hear my name. I'm a dangerous fight for him. I think I'm a clean puncher, accurate. I think he called out Conor. I think Conor's a dangerous fight for him too. I'm not saying Chandler's chinny or anything, but he gets hurt in a lot of his fights, and guys like Conor, they can punch. If you're getting hurt by Tony Ferguson, and dropped by Oliveira, guys like me, guys like Conor, if we touch your chin, it's going to be bad,
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think part of the reason he does, and that's part of the reason why I think people have taken to him so quickly after coming from
Bellator.
Yeah, Bellator. I think he's built a pretty good, well, he had an audience already and he had a fan base, but he's built that even more because he does take risks and he is vulnerable, in those ways. And he is all out.
That's the reason why he gets hurt
exactly.
Because you can't have an offense and a defense, and he's all offense, jumping forward, lunging forward. And you know what they say, when your feet leave the ground in boxing, you get carried out. Jumping around, throwing punches in the air. You can't pivot. You can't move. You run into big shots. You jump in, you get carried out.
The one thing that I always struggle with emotionally is when guys who I consider to be really good guys fight each other. It's like, hard to root against either guy per se. And I view Chandler as like a nice guy. He's a quality guy. We have obviously in common that we both have adopted children, and he lives here in Nashville. So I'm torn. Obviously we're ride or die with on Dustin Poirier, but that's a tough one because he's a good guy. Does that enter the equation for you? Like, does that affect your preparation at all when you versus like a Conor who you clearly don't like? For preparing for a Chandler where there's not probably going to be much trash talk, at least not the kind of aggressive trash talk you get with Conor. How does that enter into the equation as you prepare for the pre-fight, like Teddy would say, the first fight, the prep, the press conference, the weigh-in, the stare down, versus a fight with someone like Conor?
For me, nothing changes really with the prep, but it's a little bit easier for me to mentally, there's not as much, like I said, fighting is stressful, dude. And if the guy's chirping the whole time, the whole 8 weeks and saying stuff about you and talking trash, it's just it's aggravating. It just adds more to it, but I don't think it affects the way I train or do anything. I'm still going to get my reps in. I'm still going to push myself, whether the guy's a nice guy or a bad guy. I'm going to try to lump him up.
You might have just answered it, but I'm going to ask the question anyway, so we can get a direct, definitive answer. At this point in your career, Dustin, what is harder to preparing for the physical part, which is hard, the physical part of a fight and everything that involves, or the mental part of getting ready for a fight?
It's a tough question. It's the mental part takes more. The physical part is just I've been working, I've been training and getting in shape and cutting weight and doing this stuff for years now. So that's, it's still tough. It's hard to beat your body up and sweat every day, but that's nothing compared to the mental side. I feel like the mental prep takes a lot more I have to go out of my way to do it. The physical prep, I'm doing that because that's what I do. The mental prep, I have to sit down at the table, write things down, read. I have to make time for myself before I go to bed at night. Things that I do, I have to go out of my way and do things like that to prepare. You know, I like to write things down. I have notebooks all over here with just thoughts that come about throughout the day, or things that I want to happen this week with training. Things that I can control. I might have told you this before. I draw a circle, and everything I can control, I write inside the circle for training camp, and everything I can, I write outside the circle. And I kind of just go back to that, refresh it, look at it. Maybe I'll add a couple of things inside the circle as the weeks go on. Maybe I'll add a couple of things outside the circle. And I just go back to that. It kind of keeps me grounded, but I have to go out of my way to do those things. Going to the gym is, you know, I've been doing that forever. This mental side of stuff is kind of newer to me.
One thing, I would love to see the fight, and you touched on it a little bit earlier. I'd love to see any of those fights. And I want to see the fight that's best for Dustin Poirier. But I would love to see you and Chandler. There's a certain intrigue about that because you both sell out. You know, to a certain, I think you're a little, well, I sell out in a good way. I don't mean sell out in a bad way. Sell out where you're in that ring and you're both willing to take those chances. You're willing to go for it. You know, you're willing to, you know, walk that tightrope to get there, and to go right into the lion's cage if that's what it takes. But I think your experience would give you a little edge in that area of knowing when to go for it, and also knowing when to be a little responsible in certain other areas. He's a seek and destroy missile, and listen, that's why I'd love to see you and him fight. No,
it'd be a great fight. Whenever they matched him up with when Chandler and Gaethje got matched up, and I saw the fight announced, I knew right away. You know, that's just one of those fights that gets the fans excited. I think the same thing for me and Chandler. If our fight would get announced, it'd be that same kind of vibe, you know, because people know what they're going to get.
100%. I mean, that fight became fight of the year, correct? I believe it was.
Yeah, that was a great fight.
At the
great
Garden,
fight.
It was